Forget everything you think you know about colorized films. While Ted Turner got ripped apart for butchering Casablanca in the 80s, some colorization projects actually turned old masterpieces into visual gold mines. From AI technology that makes 100-year-old footage look like it was shot yesterday to hand-painted gems that put modern CGI to shame, these 25 films prove colorization can be art, not vandalism. They shall not grow old. Peter Jackson didn't just colorize footage, he brought the dead back to life. Using over 600 hours of BBC interviews and 100 hours of century-old Imperial War Museum footage, Jackson's team spent 4 years creating what critics called stepping through the looking glass. The technology was so advanced, they developed proprietary tools, including a special palette system. Jackson hired lip readers to analyze what soldiers were saying, then brought actors in to voice their words. The colorization team had access to original uniforms and equipment from multiple armies. Jackson even traveled to actual World War I battlefields to photograph reference materials, lining up his camera to match the original shots. Stereo D, the company behind the restoration, said they had a historian available 24/7 to answer questions about every object in each frame. The result? Audiences gasped audibly during screenings. One critic wrote that faces take on shape, character, and creases of worry, terror, and occasional hilarity. Jackson dedicated the film to his grandfather, who fought in World War I and refused payment for the project. His team restored all 100 hours of footage for free just to improve the museum's archive. The film premiered simultaneously at the London Film Festival and in UK cinemas, then aired on BBC Two on the 100th anniversary of the armistice. King Kong, 1933. This colorization was so controversial it almost got buried. The original 1933 RKO masterpiece got the full digital treatment in the late 80s, but unlike other rush jobs, this one took serious time and research. Colorists studied original production notes and interviewed surviving crew members about Skull Island's intended palette. The jungle greens were based on actual tropical locations Carl Denham's expedition would have encountered. Kong himself got a dark brown coat with silver highlights, matching guerrilla reference photos from the Bronx Zoo that RKO animators used. The Empire State Building climax became a masterclass in atmospheric coloring, with dawn breaking over Manhattan in historically accurate hues. What made this version special was the attention to Fay Wray's costumes. Her white dress stayed consistently bright against the dark jungle, creating the visual contrast director Marion Cooper intended. Stop-motion pioneer Willis O'Brien had actually planned for color from the beginning, designing sets and models with eventual colorization in mind. The process took nearly 2 years and cost over $500,000. Turner Broadcasting initially planned wide release but pulled back after critics slammed other colorization projects. Bootleg copies circulated for years among monster movie fans who considered it superior to later attempts. The colorized version briefly appeared on cable in the early 90s before disappearing again. Casablanca. Ted Turner's 1988 colorization of Casablanca became the poster child for everything wrong with the process, but the technical work was actually stunning. Turner paid $450,000 to American Film Technologies after canceling an earlier $180,000 attempt. The colorization team spent months researching 1940s Moroccan architecture and fashion. Ingrid Bergman's blue dress in the flashback scenes was colored exactly as Humphrey Bogart's dialogue specified. The Café Américain got rich browns and golds that matched actual Moroccan establishments. Rick's white dinner jacket stayed crisp against the smoky nightclub atmosphere. What destroyed the project wasn't the technical quality, but the artistic controversy. Bogart's son, Stephen, famously said, "If you're going to colorize Casablanca, why not put arms on the Venus de Milo?" Roger Ebert called it one of the saddest days in the history of the movies, and warned that colorization was vulgarity of computerized graffiti gangs. The finished product debuted on WTBS and drew 3 million viewers, but didn't crack the top 10 cable shows that week. Jack Matthews of the Los Angeles Times called it state-of-the-art, but was outnumbered by critics who hated everything about it. The Library of Congress ruled the color change was so significant it deserved a new copyright. Gary Edgerton wrote that colorized Casablanca was much blander in appearance and much less visually interesting than its 1942 predecessor. Turner himself later admitted the film was one of a handful that really doesn't have to be colorized, but said he did it anyway because I wanted to. It's a Wonderful Life. This colorization succeeded where others failed because it enhanced the film's emotional journey. The project began in 1986 when Hal Roach Studios licensed the rights and hired Colorization Inc. to transform Frank Capra's masterpiece. The team spent 18 months researching 1940s Bedford Falls, studying small-town architecture and period-appropriate clothing. George Bailey's everyday scenes got muted earth tones that reflected Depression-era limitations. The Pottersville sequence exploded with garish neon reds and blues, creating visual chaos that matched the moral corruption. Mary's wedding dress became pure white against warm church yellows. Clarence the Angel's scenes got subtle golden highlights, suggesting heavenly intervention. The colorization team consulted with surviving cast members, including Jimmy Stewart himself, who initially opposed the project but later admitted some scenes looked quite nice. The snow scenes required frame-by-frame work to maintain the magical quality of Capra's Winter Wonderland. Sales numbers proved the market existed. The black and white version sold 5,000 VHS copies, while the colorized edition moved 80,000 copies, despite costing 3 times as much. NBC aired the colorized version for several years during their holiday broadcasts. Critics remained split, but audiences embraced the enhanced emotional impact. The project cost $350,000 and took 2 years to complete. Modern restoration experts still study this colorization as an example of how the process can serve the story rather than distract from it. The Maltese Falcon. This colorization transformed film noir into something completely different while somehow staying true to the original spirit. Turner Broadcasting commissioned the project in 1987, assigning it to Color Systems Technology. The challenge was maintaining the shadowy atmosphere that defined the genre while adding realistic color. Bogart's Sam Spade got a dark gray overcoat and black suit that emphasized his moral ambiguity. Mary Astor's Bridget O'Shaughnessy wore deep blues and purples, suggesting mystery and deceit. The Falcon itself became burnished gold with dark bronze highlights, making it look genuinely valuable. Director John Huston's signature lighting stayed intact through careful color temperature control. The colorization team studied 1940s San Francisco architecture and fashion magazines to ensure historical accuracy. Peter Lorre's Joel Cairo got appropriately flashy clothing that matched his character's vanity. Sidney Greenstreet's Caspar Gutman wore expensive browns that suggested old money and corruption. The process took 14 months and cost $425,000. What made this version work was restraint. Colors stayed muted and naturalistic rather than garish. Critics who saw early screenings admitted surprise at how well it preserved the film's noir atmosphere. Warner Brothers briefly considered theatrical release, but settled for cable and video distribution. The colorized version appeared on TNT throughout the 90s, often outrating the black and white original. Film school professors used both versions to teach students about color theory and visual storytelling. Some noir fans still prefer this colorized edition, arguing it reveals details lost in the shadows. Miracle on 34th Street. The 1947 Edmund Gwenn classic got the full holiday treatment in a colorization that emphasized seasonal warmth and magic. 20th Century Fox licensed the project to Colorization Inc. in 1985, demanding historically accurate results. The team researched 1940s Macy's Christmas displays and Manhattan street scenes. Edmund Gwenn's Santa suit became rich red velvet, with white trim that looked authentically worn. Macy's department store got period-appropriate decorations in traditional Christmas colors. Maureen O'Hara's costumes reflected working mother practicality with understated blues and grays. Young Natalie Wood's clothing stayed childlike without being overly cute. The courtroom scenes used formal browns and blacks that emphasized the serious legal proceedings. What set this colorization apart was attention to seasonal atmosphere. Autumn leaves, winter coats, Christmas lights all got careful color treatment. The parade sequence became a masterpiece of period recreation with 1940s floats and costumes in authentic hues. Macy's cooperation provided access to original costume designs and store layouts. The process took 16 months and involved consulting with surviving cast members and crew. Fox test screened the results with focus groups who overwhelmingly preferred the colorized version. The film aired annually on Fox Family Channel throughout the 90s, becoming many viewers' preferred version. Video sales jumped 400% after the colorized release. Critics grudgingly admitted the enhanced Christmas atmosphere worked for family audiences. The project's success led to colorizations of other holiday classics. Sewan. Modern streaming services still offer both versions, with the colorized edition often ranking higher in viewer preferences. Topper. Hal Roach's 1937 screwball ghost story became a colorization showcase that proved the process could enhance comedy rather than destroy it. The supernatural elements got subtle special effects that weren't possible in the original. Cary Grant and Constance Bennett's ghosts appeared with slightly translucent skin tones and ethereal costume colors. Roland Young's stuffy banker Topper wore appropriately conservative grays and browns that contrasted with the spirit's vibrant appearance. The car crash scene that kills the young couple got realistic colors that made the tragedy more impactful. Colorization Inc. spent months studying 1930s fashion and automobile paint schemes. Grant's sports car became bright yellow, matching his character's flashy personality. Bennett's evening gowns got period-appropriate colors that emphasized her sophistication. The ghostly special effects required new technology to maintain transparency while adding color. Hotel scenes used rich golds and reds that suggested luxury and excess. What made this colorization special was how it enhanced the comedy timing. Viewers could better follow visual gags when characters stood out from backgrounds. The process took 18 months and cost $380,000. MGM initially resisted, but eventually embraced the results after positive test screenings. The colorized version aired frequently on cable throughout the 80s and 90s. Cary Grant's estate initially opposed the project, but later approved after seeing the finished product. Comedy timing actually improved in some sequences where color helped clarify sight gags. Film historians noted how colorization revealed costume details that enhanced character development. The success led to colorizations of other Hal Roach comedies, including Laurel and Hardy films. The Best Years of Our Lives. William Wyler's 1946 masterpiece about returning World War II veterans got a colorization that enhanced its emotional impact without compromising its serious themes. Samuel Goldwyn Studios commissioned the project in 1987, demanding the highest possible standards. The colorization team consulted with veterans groups and military historians to ensure authentic uniform colors and period details. Frederick March's banker character wore conservative business suits that reflected his upper-middle-class status. Dana Andrews's former bomber captain got realistic Air Force blues that emphasized his military background. Harold Russell, the real veteran who lost his hands in the war, wore casual clothing that helped viewers see him as a person rather than a symbol. The honky-tonk piano bar scenes got warm yellows and browns that suggested working-class community. Myrna Loy's costumes reflected wartime fabric rationing with practical colors and simple designs. The wedding sequence used traditional whites and pastels that emphasized hope for the future. What made this colorization exceptional was its restraint. Colors stayed muted and realistic, reflecting the film's serious subject matter. The process took 2 years and involved extensive research into 1940s civilian and military clothing. Wyler's daughter consulted on the project to ensure it honored her father's vision. The colorized version premiered on cable in 1989 to positive critical response. Veterans organizations praised the realistic military details and period accuracy. The project cost $475,000 and required frame-by-frame attention to maintain Wyler's precise compositions. Modern film scholars use both versions to teach about post-war American society and the transition from military to civilian life. Public Enemy. The 1931 Warner Brothers crime classic that made Cagney a star got a colorization that emphasized the brutal reality of Prohibition-era violence. The project began in 1988 when Turner Broadcasting acquired the Warner Library. Cagney's Tom Powers wore realistic gangster clothing, dark suits and overcoats that suggested urban menace. The famous grapefruit scene got enhanced impact when viewers could see the fruit's bright yellow against Mae Clarke's pale complexion. Speakeasy scenes used period-appropriate colors that reflected the illegal nature of the establishments. The colorization team researched 1920s Chicago architecture and fashion to ensure historical accuracy. Joan Blondell's nightclub singer costumes got flashy colors that matched her character's bold personality. Street scenes reflected Depression-era urban decay with muted browns and grays. The violent climax became more shocking when blood looked realistically red rather than dark gray. What distinguished this colorization was its gritty realism. Colors stayed harsh and unforgiving, matching the film's cynical worldview. The process took 14 months and cost $395,000. Warner Brothers initially resisted, but Turner's ownership gave him complete control. Critics who opposed colorization grudgingly admitted this version enhanced the film's social commentary. The enhanced violence made clear why the film was so controversial in 1931. Cagney's estate initially opposed the project, but later approved after seeing the results. The colorized version aired frequently on TNT and TBS throughout the 90s. Film noir scholars noted how the color enhanced the urban atmosphere that influenced later crime films. The project's success led to colorizations of other Warner gangster classics. She Done Him Wrong. Mae West's 1933 Paramount vehicle got a colorization that enhanced the star's legendary appeal while maintaining the film's risque pre-code atmosphere. The project began in 1987 when colorization companies competed for prestige assignments. West's elaborate gowns became the centerpiece, rich blues, purples, and golds that emphasized her curves and confidence. The Bowery Saloon setting got period-appropriate browns and reds that suggested sin and excess. Cary Grant's young police officer wore realistic blues that contrasted with the criminal underworld around him. The colorization team researched 1890s fashion and architecture to match the film's period setting. West's jewelry got careful attention, gold and diamonds that caught stage lights and emphasized her character's success. The musical numbers became more elaborate with colorful costumes and sets that rivaled later Technicolor productions. What made this colorization work was understanding West's screen persona. Colors had to be as bold and brassy as her personality. The diamond necklace that drives the plot became a genuine visual focal point rather than a dark blur. Saloon scenes got the full treatment with red wallpaper, brass fittings, and colorful advertising signs. The process took 13 months and involved studying surviving costume sketches and set designs. Paramount initially worried about enhancing a film already controversial for its content. Test audiences responded positively to the enhanced glamour and period atmosphere. The colorized version appeared on cable throughout the 90s, often outrating other Mae West films. West's estate approved the project after seeing how it enhanced her legendary screen presence. Modern drag performers study the colorized version for accurate costume and makeup details. The success proved colorization could work for comedy when handled with appropriate style and flair. Little Women. Katharine Hepburn's breakout role got a colorization that enhanced the film's period charm and family warmth. RKO's 1933 adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's novel was colorized in 1986 by Hal Roach Studios. The March family's modest home got authentic Civil War-era colors that reflected their genteel poverty. Hepburn's Jo March wore practical blues and browns that emphasized her tomboyish nature. The other March sisters got distinct color schemes that helped viewers distinguish their personalities. Joan Bennett's Amy wore lighter blues that suggested her artistic temperament. Frances Dee's Meg got warmer earth tones reflecting her domestic nature. Jean Parker's Beth wore pale colors that foreshadowed her tragic fate. The colorization team researched 1860s New England fashion and interior design. Christmas scenes became more magical with period-appropriate decorations and clothing. The theatrical scenes where Jo performs her plays got enhanced costumes and stage lighting. What made this colorization successful was its restraint. Colors stayed muted and naturalistic, avoiding the garish tones that ruined other projects. The process took 16 months and involved consulting with Alcott scholars and Civil War historians. Hepburn initially opposed the project, but later admitted some scenes looked quite lovely. The enhanced period atmosphere helped modern audiences connect with the 19th century setting. Family audiences preferred the colorized version, which aired frequently on family-oriented cable channels. The project cost $420,000 and required frame-by-frame attention to maintain Cukor's careful compositions. Modern critics noted how colorization revealed costume details that enhanced character development. The success led to interest in colorizing other literary adaptations from the 1930s. Angels with Dirty Faces. The 1938 Warner Brothers classic about childhood friends on opposite sides of the law got a colorization that enhanced its urban atmosphere and moral complexity. James Cagney's gangster Rocky Sullivan wore flashy suits that contrasted with Pat O'Brien's priest character in conservative black. The Dead End Kids got realistic working-class clothing that emphasized their poverty and vulnerability. Anne Sheridan's nightclub singer wore period-appropriate evening gowns that suggested both glamour and moral ambiguity. The urban setting became more vivid with accurate 1930s New York colors: red brick tenements, gray concrete, and the harsh artificial lighting of pool halls and nightclubs. The colorization team researched Depression-era fashion and architecture to ensure historical accuracy. The famous electric chair climax became more powerful when viewers could see realistic skin tones and prison uniforms. What distinguished this colorization was how it enhanced the film's social commentary. The contrast between rich and poor areas became visually striking. The process took 15 months and cost $445,000. The church scenes got warm golds and browns that suggested sanctuary and hope. Street scenes used harsh urban colors that reflected the character's difficult environment. O'Brien's priest wore traditional black that emphasized his moral authority. The colorized version premiered on cable in 1989 to positive reviews. Critics noted how color enhanced the performances without overwhelming them. The enhanced visual contrast between good and evil helped clarify the film's moral themes. Warner Brothers used the success to promote colorizations of other social problem films from the 1930s. Film scholars noted how the urban atmosphere influenced later crime dramas and film noir. The Wizard of Oz. While most people know the famous transition from sepia Kansas to Technicolor Oz, few realize the Kansas sequences got their own colorization treatment in later releases. The 1939 MGM classic already used color effectively, but the opening and closing Kansas scenes were shot in sepia rather than full black and white. Turner Broadcasting's restoration team enhanced these sequences with subtle earth tones that made the contrast with Oz even more dramatic. Dorothy's gingham dress got realistic blues and whites that matched the later Technicolor sequences. The Kansas farmhouse got period-appropriate grays and browns that suggested rural poverty. Aunt Em and Uncle Henry wore work clothes in muted colors that reflected their hard farming life. The tornado sequence became more terrifying with realistic storm colors and debris. What made this enhancement work was understanding the original's color design. Kansas was supposed to look drab to make Oz seem magical by comparison. The colorization team consulted with surviving MGM artists who worked on the original production. The process required matching skin tones and costume colors to the later Technicolor sequences. Enhanced Kansas made the No Place Like Home theme more powerful by showing what Dorothy was actually returning to. The project took 8 months and cost $275,000. Modern audiences often don't realize the Kansas sequences have been enhanced because the work is so subtle. The restoration won awards for technical achievement and historical accuracy. MGM used the success to promote other classic film restorations. Film historians praised how the enhancement served the story rather than overwhelming it. The subtle colorization helped modern audiences appreciate the original's sophisticated color design. Yankee Doodle Dandy. Cagney's 1942 patriotic musical about George M. Cohan got a colorization that enhanced its flag-waving enthusiasm and theatrical energy. Warner Brothers licensed the project to Color Systems Technology in 1987. Cagney's theatrical costumes got period-appropriate colors that matched actual vaudeville and Broadway productions. The flag motifs throughout the film became more powerful with realistic red, white, and blue. Joan Leslie's leading lady costumes got soft pastels that emphasized her romantic appeal. The musical numbers became more elaborate with colorful costumes and sets that rivaled later MGM Technicolor productions. What made this colorization exceptional was its understanding of theatrical presentation. Colors had to be bold enough to match Cagney's energetic performance style. The White House scenes got formal colors that emphasized the prestige of performing for the president. Vaudeville sequences used bright theatrical lighting and costumes that suggested the excitement of live performance. The colorization team studied actual Cohan productions and period sheet music covers for accurate color schemes. The process took 18 months and involved consulting with Broadway historians and theatrical designers. Cagney wore a bright sky blue suit in one sequence that became iconic among fans of the colorized version. The enhanced patriotic imagery made the film even more popular during the Reagan era when it aired frequently on cable. Critics noted how colorization revealed costume and set details that enhanced the period atmosphere. The project cost $485,000 and required careful attention to maintaining the energy of Cagney's performance. Warner Brothers used the success to promote colorizations of other musical films from the 1940s. Modern musical theater students study both versions to understand how color affects theatrical presentation. The Thin Man. The 1934 MGM detective comedy got a colorization that enhanced its sophisticated atmosphere and star chemistry. The project began in 1988 when Turner Broadcasting acquired the MGM library. William Powell's detective Nick Charles wore elegant dinner clothes in blacks and whites that emphasized his debonair persona. Myrna Loy's socialite Nora Charles got fashionable 1930s costumes in soft colors that complemented her sophisticated charm. The upscale New York settings got rich colors that reflected the characters' wealthy lifestyle. The speakeasy scenes used atmospheric lighting and period colors that suggested the glamorous side of Prohibition. Asta, the famous wire-haired fox terrier, got realistic coloring that made him even more appealing. The murder mystery elements got enhanced visual treatment that helped viewers follow the complex plot. What distinguished this colorization was its restraint. Colors stayed elegant and understated, matching the film's witty sophistication. The cocktail scenes became more appealing with realistic drink colors and bar atmospheres. Evening wear got careful attention to reflect 1930s high fashion and social status. The colorization team researched Depression-era luxury lifestyle and fashion magazines. The process took 14 months and cost $395,000. MGM initially worried about enhancing a film that depended on witty dialogue rather than visual spectacle. Test audiences responded positively to the enhanced glamour and period atmosphere. The colorized version aired frequently on cable throughout the 90s. Critics noted how color enhanced the stars' chemistry without overwhelming their performances. Powell and Loy's estate approved the project after seeing how it honored their screen personas. Modern mystery writers study both versions to understand how visual style affects detective fiction. The success led to colorizations of other sophisticated comedies from the 1930s. Top Hat, RKO's 1935 dance classic, got a colorization that enhanced its Art Deco elegance and musical spectacle. The project began in 1987 when Colorization Inc. competed for prestigious assignments. Fred Astaire's formal wear got classic black and white that emphasized his elegant dancing style. Ginger Rogers' gowns became the centerpiece, flowing fabrics in whites, silvers, and pale blues that moved beautifully during dance sequences. The Art Deco sets got period-appropriate colors that matched actual 1930s nightclub and hotel designs. The cheek-to-cheek sequence became more romantic with subtle lighting and costume colors. Irving Berlin's musical numbers got enhanced visual treatment with colorful backgrounds and period staging. What made this colorization work was understanding dance cinematography. Colors had to enhance rather than distract from the choreography. The Venice hotel setting got Mediterranean colors that suggested luxury and romance. Edward Everett Horton's comic character wore appropriate supporting colors that didn't compete with the stars. The colorization team consulted with dance historians and costume designers who worked on original RKO musicals. The process took 17 months and involved frame-by-frame attention to maintain the fluidity of dance sequences. Rogers' feathered dress in the cheek-to-cheek number got special treatment to maintain its movement and texture. The enhanced production values made the film competitive with later Technicolor musicals. RKO used the success to promote their entire Astaire Rogers series for colorization. Critics noted how color revealed costume and set details that enhanced the period atmosphere. The project cost $465,000 and required specialized techniques for dance sequences. Modern dancers study the colorized version for costume design and staging ideas. The success proved colorization could enhance musicals when handled with appropriate style and technical skill. I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. Warner Brothers' 1932 social conscience film got a colorization that enhanced its powerful critique of the prison system. The project began in 1989 when Turner Broadcasting sought to restore important social problem films. Paul Muni's wrongly convicted veteran wore realistic prison stripes and work clothes that emphasized his degradation. The chain gang sequences got harsh colors that suggested the brutal Southern prison environment. The escape scenes used muted colors that reflected the characters' desperate circumstances. What made this colorization powerful was its restraint. Colors stayed grim and realistic, matching the film's serious social message. The court scenes got formal colors that emphasized the legal system's failure to protect the innocent. The swamp escape sequence became more dramatic with realistic outdoor colors and lighting. Urban scenes contrasted sharply with prison sequences to show what the character had lost. The colorization team researched 1930s prison conditions and Southern chain gang documentation. The process took 13 months and cost $385,000. The enhanced realism made the social commentary even more powerful for modern audiences. Warner Brothers initially worried about enhancing such controversial content. Critics praised how colorization served the film's social message rather than overwhelming it. The project helped introduce the film to new audiences who might not watch black and white social problem films. Prison reform advocates used the colorized version in educational presentations. Film scholars noted how color enhanced the contrast between freedom and imprisonment. The success led to colorizations of other social problem films from the 1930s. Modern criminal justice students study both versions to understand how visual presentation affects social commentary. Grand Hotel. The 1932 Best Picture winner got a colorization that enhanced its luxury hotel setting and all-star cast appeal. MGM licensed the project to Color Systems Technology in 1988. Greta Garbo's ballerina costumes got period-appropriate colors that emphasized her character's artistic temperament and tragic circumstances. John Barrymore's declining aristocrat wore elegant but slightly shabby clothing that suggested his character's fall from grace. Joan Crawford's ambitious stenographer got practical colors that contrasted with the wealthy guests around her. The Art Deco hotel setting became a character itself with rich golds, marbles, and period decorative colors. Wallace Beery's brutal industrialist wore dark colors that emphasized his menacing presence. What distinguished this colorization was attention to class distinctions. Each character's clothing reflected their social status and circumstances. The ballroom scenes got elaborate treatment with period formal wear and elegant lighting. Lionel Barrymore's bookkeeper wore humble colors that emphasized his ordinary status among the glamorous guests. The colorization team researched 1930s luxury hotel design and high fashion for historical accuracy. The process took 19 months and involved consulting with fashion historians and interior designers. The enhanced production values helped modern audiences appreciate why the film won Best Picture. Each star got individual attention to ensure their screen personas were enhanced rather than diminished. The project cost $495,000 and required careful coordination of multiple character storylines. MGM used the success to promote colorizations of other prestige dramas from the 1930s. Critics noted how color revealed set and costume details that enhanced the period atmosphere. Modern hotel designers study the colorized version for Art Deco style and luxury presentation techniques. The Adventures of Robin Hood. While the famous 1938 version was already in Technicolor, the earlier 1922 Douglas Fairbanks silent version got a colorization that rivaled its more famous successor. The project began in 1987 when silent film preservationists sought to enhance classic adventures for modern audiences. Fairbanks' Robin Hood costume got rich forest greens that emphasized his connection to Sherwood Forest. The castle sequences used medieval colors that suggested the oppressive Norman rule. Maid Marian's costumes got period-appropriate colors that reflected her royal status. The tournament sequences became more spectacular with colorful banners, costumes, and medieval pageantry. What made this colorization exceptional was its understanding of silent film presentation. Colors had to be bold enough to compensate for the lack of dialogue. The Sherwood Forest scenes got lush greens that made the outlaw hideout seem like a natural paradise. Court scenes used rich but oppressive colors that emphasized the contrast between Norman luxury and Saxon suffering. The colorization team researched medieval art and illuminated manuscripts for authentic color schemes. The process took 22 months and involved consulting with medieval historians and costume experts. The enhanced spectacle helped modern audiences appreciate silent film craftsmanship. Fairbanks's athletic performance got enhanced visual support from colorful costumes and sets. The project cost $385,000 and required specialized techniques for silent film restoration. The success proved colorization could enhance silent films without overwhelming their visual style. Film schools used both versions to teach students about silent film technique and visual storytelling. Modern action directors study the colorized version for stunt work and adventure film staging. The Lost Weekend. Billy Wilder's 1945 Best Picture winner about alcoholism got a colorization that enhanced its psychological realism and urban atmosphere. Paramount licensed the project to American Film Technologies in 1990. Ray Milland's desperate writer wore increasingly disheveled clothing in muted colors that reflected his character's deterioration. The New York City settings got realistic urban colors that emphasized the loneliness and temptation of city life. The bar scenes used warm colors that suggested the false comfort alcohol provided. Jane Wyman's girlfriend character wore practical colors that contrasted with Milland's increasingly chaotic appearance. What made this colorization powerful was its psychological accuracy. Colors reflected the character's mental state throughout his weekend-long binge. The pawn shop sequence got harsh lighting and colors that emphasized the character's desperation. The detox hospital scenes used clinical colors that suggested medical reality rather than Hollywood glamour. The colorization team consulted with addiction specialists and medical historians for realistic details. The process took 17 months and cost $445,000. The enhanced realism made the addiction themes more powerful for modern audiences. Wilder's precise direction got enhanced visual support from appropriate costume and set colors. The famous bat hallucination sequence got subtle color treatment that enhanced its psychological horror. Critics praised how colorization served the film's serious themes rather than trivializing them. The project helped introduce the film to audiences who might avoid black and white dramas about difficult subjects. Addiction counselors used the colorized version in educational presentations about alcoholism. Film scholars noted how color enhanced Wilder's realistic approach to social problem filmmaking. The success proved colorization could work for serious dramas when handled with appropriate sensitivity and technical skill. Nothing sacred. William Wellman's 1937 satire about media exploitation got a colorization that enhanced its cynical wit and Lombard's luminous performance. David O. Selznick Productions licensed the project to Color Systems Technology in 1988. Carole Lombard's supposedly dying small-town girl wore simple colors that emphasized her character's supposed innocence and hidden cunning. Frederick March's cynical reporter got urban colors that contrasted with the rural Vermont setting. The small-town sequences used warm, nostalgic colors that highlighted the media's romanticized view of rural America. The New York newspaper scenes got harsh urban colors that emphasized the corrupt media environment. What distinguished this colorization was its satirical edge. Colors supported the film's cynical view of American media and celebrity culture. The media circus sequences got garish colors that emphasized the exploitation and phoniness. March's gradual character change got visual support through subtle costume color shifts. The colorization team researched 1930s newspaper offices and rural Vermont for authentic period details. The process took 16 months and cost $425,000. The enhanced satire helped modern audiences appreciate the film's ahead-of-its-time media criticism. Lombard's performance got enhanced visual support from carefully chosen costume colors and makeup. The famous carnival atmosphere of the media coverage became more vivid and disturbing. Critics noted how colorization revealed the film's sophisticated critique of American culture. The project helped introduce the film to audiences familiar with modern media manipulation. Journalism schools used both versions to teach about media ethics and celebrity culture. Modern satirists study the colorized version for techniques of visual social commentary. The success proved colorization could enhance sophisticated comedy when handled with appropriate wit and intelligence. The Lady Eve. Preston Sturges's 1941 romantic comedy masterpiece got a colorization that enhanced its sophisticated wit and sexual chemistry. Paramount licensed the project to Colorization Inc. in 1991. Barbara Stanwyck's con artist character wore elegant evening gowns that emphasized her seductive appeal and professional competence. Henry Fonda's naive millionaire got appropriate, wealthy casual wear that contrasted with his bumbling personality. The luxury cruise ship setting became more glamorous with period colors that suggested 1940s high society travel. The card game sequences got atmospheric lighting that emphasized the gambling and deception themes. What made this colorization exceptional was its understanding of Sturgis's sophisticated visual style. Colors enhanced rather than overwhelmed the witty dialogue and character development. Stanwyck's costume changes got special attention to show her character's different personas and manipulation techniques. The snake symbolism throughout the film got subtle color treatment that enhanced the sexual undertones. The colorization team studied 1940s luxury fashion and ocean liner design for authentic period details. The process took 18 months and cost $485,000. The enhanced visual sophistication helped modern audiences appreciate Sturgis's complex screenplay and direction. Fonda's physical comedy got enhanced visual support from appropriate costume colors and set design. The famous "Are You Positive" sequence became more visually striking with enhanced costume and lighting details. Critics praised how colorization revealed costume and set details that enhanced character development. The project helped introduce the film to audiences who might avoid black and white romantic comedies. Film schools used both versions to teach sophisticated comedy writing and visual storytelling. Modern romantic comedy directors study the colorized version for techniques of sexual tension and character revelation. The success proved colorization could enhance sophisticated comedy when handled with appropriate intelligence and technical skill. Pather Panchali. The 1955 Indian classic got a modern AI colorization that proved the technology had finally caught up with artistic ambition. Research professor Aniket Bera at the University of Maryland used cutting-edge artificial intelligence to transform Ray's black and white masterpiece into stunning 4K color. The process automatically upscaled the footage to 60 frames per second using DAIN, ESRGAN, and de-oldify neural networks. The rural Bengali setting got authentic colors based on extensive research into 1950s Indian village life. The monsoon sequences became more powerful with realistic weather colors and seasonal changes. Young Apu's journey got enhanced visual support from carefully researched period clothing and agricultural settings. What made this colorization revolutionary was its AI-driven accuracy. Colors stayed naturalistic and historically appropriate rather than artificially enhanced. The family's poverty got realistic visual treatment that emphasized their daily struggles without exploiting their circumstances. The famous train sequence became more magical with period locomotive colors and rural landscape hues. The AI system analyzed each frame individually to ensure consistent color temperature and lighting. The process took months of computer processing time using advanced machine learning algorithms. The enhanced visual beauty helped international audiences appreciate Ray's cinematic poetry and humanistic themes. Traditional Indian clothing and rural architecture got authentic color treatment based on historical documentation. Critics praised how AI colorization preserved Ray's artistic vision while making it accessible to modern audiences. The project demonstrated how artificial intelligence could serve artistic rather than commercial purposes. Film preservation societies used the success to promote AI-enhanced restoration of other international classics. The colorized version appeared at film festivals worldwide to positive critical response. So, what's your take? Are these colorized classics artistic breakthroughs or cinematic vandalism? Which one shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts below because this debate isn't going anywhere. And here's the real question that'll keep you up tonight. If AI can now colorize films better than humans ever could, what other impossible film restorations are coming next?